Hello, welcome to our presentation. My name is Karoly Schlosser and I'm here to represent Aquanauta Center for Exploration. We are a young startup of 2.5 years of age, and over the past year we've been incubated by the European Space Agency's Business Incubation Center in Hungary. Our aim is to develop and test the feasibility of utilizing cave diving as an appropriate version of space analogs and mission simulations. We aim to test equipment, tools, technologies, procedures, develop solutions, and test the related human factors in order to see how this can be best utilized in space exploration and medicine. For this, the title doesn't lie. We do intend to go to 90 meters below the surface within a cave. So before getting to cave diving, let's see the reasons why turning to it. As a psychologist, I had the opportunity to work with people working in different performance contexts and needing to face different stressors and difficulties in their own lives and towards the purpose they are working to. And carrying out a successful space mission you could consider it as a highly stressful context where people need to perform up to the best standards. And it is very interesting how we try to bring an analog between that scenario and then another scenario where we try to mimic this context. What clearly the research shows, it's not just that we can improve people's mental health, which also affects their productivity, but also that people would choose to act one way when they are subject of some sort of danger and when they are subject of none. It's very easy to see that, and potentially thus we have to consider that the data we are receiving some of the low fidelity missions are actually not reliable and valid in terms of human factor research like behavioral actions, behavioral health, resilience, leadership, and the way how people communicate with each other, for example, to name a few. So should we not test human factors more rigorously, especially if we try to make it towards something which is even more challenging than the standards astronauts are already facing on low Earth orbit? NASA said they would send the next man and the first woman to the surface of the moon by 2024 as part of the Artemis program. This would mark a remarkable achievement. In order to establish a lasting presence on the surface or under the surface of the moon, and perhaps even to send the first astronaut to Mars, that would require incredible technological preparedness. In order to get there, we need to design systems which are tested and optimized and coordinated according to the needs of the crew using those facilities. Recently, NASA released a video where astronauts are testing spacesuits as part of the Artemis program in the Natural Buoyancy Laboratory of the Johnson Space Center. Similar facilities are often used by other agencies, for example, the European Space Agency, to test different technologies and prepare astronauts to activities they will need to perform in space. Other programs which are used to train astronauts for future missions are, for example, the Caves and Pangea programs of the European Space Agency, where they are often trained to carry out different sort of geological activities and explore caves similar in nature, which may be found on under the surface of the moon. It is easy to see how we can combine these two venues in the form of cave diving. However, it's very difficult to find experts across the globe who can reliably and securely carry out activities and live for a limited amount of time in these extreme contexts. If we look at Sinelli's classification of analog missions, we can see that she divided the level of fidelity of analog missions into 3 levels with 3 further sublevels. The features she considered in this classification system is isolation, confinement, extremity, lack of surprise, threatening life conditions, lack of being rescued, environmental conditions, altitude, and depth from sea level, and light and dark cycles. If we consider different mission analogs, we can see that most of the analogs around the world would fall into low to mid, perhaps the first level of high fidelity missions. But if we want to create, if we want to study and research the way how people will need to perform and live under the surface of the moon, or perhaps on Mars one day, we need to establish more complex and more missions with higher fidelity to these future contexts. In our program at Aquanauta Center for Exploration, we aim to create a context that has high fidelity to current low Earth orbit missions or future space missions, perhaps under the surface of the moon. We focus on human factor and engineering research in order to create knowledge that has high validity and reliability. For example, we aim to study equipment and human physiology under conditions similar to microgravity. We aim to study the relationship of fatigue, decision-making, or productivity, perhaps as well as mental health. We test robots and equipment in underwater caves, and explore the effects of darkness over the human circadian rhythm and see how that connects with isolation and confinement. Or, for example, assess the way how the crew can adjust and cope under confinement, more confinement experience. That is to leave a dry cave and enter into an underwater cave. We believe in the long run these can be of utility of the space agencies as well as industrial partners. We would like to hear from individuals, companies, institutes, and other academic and industry partners to carry out human factor and engineering R&D activities in relation to space and underwater exploration. Please feel free to contact us at the details provided below. We would appreciate to hear from you. Thank you very much for your attention.